Good afternoon. This is Chris from Women Speak Out, and I just got finished reading Suicide Note from Princeton programmer Bill Zeller, and was posted on all the media outlets. I'm sure there are many people out there that have read it as well, and it really struck a chord in me, and it really kind of emboldened me a little bit, because a lot of the things that he said in that suicide note, I felt. As a fellow abuse survivor, all those things about hiding behind a smiling face, and not being able to let go of the abuse, and constantly thinking about the abuse, and being in relationships where you can't function. You feel like you can't function. You feel like you can't give all of yourself and give all of your love because you were abused and you've never dealt with it, and you've always felt like you had to hide it. And it really brought things into perspective, because a lot of colleges bring a lot of variety of speakers in to speak at their colleges. And you have colleges that bring in people that talk about healthy relationships. You have speakers that come in and talk about domestic violence. You have speakers that come in and talk about campus safety. You have speakers that come in and talk about all the things that don't cut to the core of what's going on with our students, the things that will actually impact them the most. Like it or not, there's so many students in our campus that are abuse survivors. There are a lot of abuse survivors, and those are the people that need our help the most. And the college experience is a time of change. It's a time of opening up. It's a time where students and people like Bill Zeller should be able to feel like they're in a safe environment in order to deal with their abuse, to be productive people, not just a productive programmer, not just a productive citizen, to be a productive, healthy person. And colleges play a big part in that. And while I have total respect for all the various types of speakers that come in, one thing I hardly ever see are abuse survivors coming onto campus, telling people about their abuse, about what happened to them, and helping them get through it, showing them that I'm an abuse survivor and I'm going to talk about my abuse. I'm going to talk about what I went through. Those are the things that impact people emotionally, not programs on campus safety. Those are little band-aids that we keep applying to things, thinking that it will make some kind of impactful change with students. It's not on the level where a student has experienced trauma, never dealt with the trauma, always felt like they had to hide the trauma, and never feeling like they could be themselves, which is this person that was traumatized, that was abused, and can exist in that space. Can exist in that space. A lot of college campuses, they can't. They still feel like they have to be quiet. They still feel like they have to be silent. And what angers me about reading a note like that is that he never felt like he can come forward. He never, even in relationships, he never felt like he can tell people this big thing in his life, and that would have made some kind of change. And I wonder, going through his time in college, going through his time in relationships, if he ever had the opportunity to see a speaker, or saw a male support group, or was exposed to something that may have impacted him, may have turned the course in his life so that he can still be here today. And it's frustrating, because me and my wife are speakers. We're both abuse survivors. We're advocates for victims and survivors. And we're so excited and encouraged to share our message. But I see the kind of speakers that colleges bring in. I see the kind of speakers. And those are the type of speakers that are connected most to the pulse of the media, What is big? Oh, it's domestic violence. Are people being raped on campus? Let's deal with that little band-aid rather than the fact that maybe the rapist, maybe the victim are both survivors of abuse. Maybe we exist in a college campus where there are so many survivors out there that need help, and things are occurring because of this, because people can't feel like they can express themselves. They don't have access to the resources, and they don't see anyone around them talking about abuse. So I wonder with these college campuses, will you bring speakers like us in? Or will you continue to bring healthy living speakers, domestic violence speakers, to continue to put band-aids on the problem? We can't continue that way. There will be more Bill Zellers if we don't set our course on a different tact and approach the cause, not the symptoms. Not the symptoms. I know that it's, from a public relations standpoint with colleges, it's much easier to address the symptoms. When you see things in the media, what is the media focused on? Let's address that. And it makes it look like we're dealing with the problem. We are not dealing with the problem. We are not dealing with the problem. And students that are survivors, that cannot express themselves, that feel like they cannot be themselves, will continue to do things like this. Will continue to abuse alcohol, will continue to drop out of school, will continue to be vulnerable to predators, will continue to be predators, will continue to commit suicide. So how do we make that change? How do we make that change? Let's bring the face of survivorship to college campuses. Those are people like me. There are many other speakers who are survivors, who are not speaking in college campuses, who should be the type of speakers that are brought on campuses. So I ask you, how do we do that? How do we do that? How do we address the core? How do we do that? I wonder if there's any college administrators watching this type of video thinking, okay, let's bring somebody in that a survivor can see and that can make an impact emotionally on their life. Not a top 10 of lists of things to do to stay out of a potential domestic violence incident. No. Real change happens when me as a survivor can see somebody speak about it in front of me that will encourage me to speak about it and allow me to be myself finally. There are so many survivors out there that aren't themselves, that are hiding this darkness. College campuses can be a place that can make a difference. They have budgets. They have these limited budgets where they can bring speakers in. Bring the speakers in that matter. Bring the speakers in that matter. Not speakers that are going to give you a top 10 list of advice. Bring the speakers in that have the stories that are just like their stories, that they can see, that will make a difference in their life, and let them know that they're not alone. So something to think about. Something to think about in the wake of this horrible, horrible thing that happened. We really need to make a change. This is Chris DeSaris, Women Speak Out. Thank you.